and I'll ask if anybody has any questions, and we'll go from there. So, since this is episode 1, I'm just going to start with a little introduction. My name is Mac Brackenrich. 28-year-old former law enforcement officer and canine handler, and I'm the owner and operator of BSquared Gunsmithing LLC. I opened this business in May of 2024, and I'm currently enrolled in the Sonoran Desert Institute gunsmith course to gain my certification in gunsmithing. Currently, I am a dealer for Modern Spartan Systems, Otis Technology, and Shooter's Choice. Also working on the approval for my FFL licensing to be able to conduct full gunsmith services and firearm sales through this business and in the state. But right now, currently focusing on school and retail marketing sales to individuals and law enforcement agencies across the state. My goal for doing these segments is to interact and help my clientele and the general public with my knowledge of the world of firearms, as well as educate the public on questions that may be out there and tips and knowledge that you may know or have never thought about, but also to end the stigma around firearms in the current world we live in hopes to make a difference. In addition to that, I'm interested in learning from you guys about things that I may not know or haven't learned yet, but also by your questions and comments that I can't answer, and by doing the research to get you those answers. So I hope to learn just as much, if not more, from you guys as I hope that you guys learn from me. So today's topics are going to be firearm safety, safe handling, how to identify if a firearm is safe to operate or not, and first aid kit essentials that you may want to have with you in the field or at your hunting camp, whatever. What I expect from you guys have a very important role during these episodes, just as much as I do, because during these episodes, I need you guys to interact as much as possible with me while I'm discussing these topics so that the conversation continues and doesn't just end with the information that I have provided to you guys. So by interacting and asking questions with me and other viewers is suggested and appreciated. It's also going to add to the content during these segments and also lead to further discussion and further segment topics and answered questions, resulting in more learning and deeper provided information about certain things. So I encourage the questions. Skip that for now. So let's get started. So firearm safety and safe handling. Firearms and shooting can be inherently dangerous by nature, but strictly adhering to a set of rules to ensure that you and everyone around you are safe is highly recommended. Firearms should not be feared, but they should be respected. Just like with other dangerous things in our lives, we learn how to safely handle and manipulate them. Firearms are no different. But becoming lax with safety is a sure way for someone to get hurt or worse. Following these next set of rules that I'm going to lay out here will help ensure safety with and around firearms, whether you're operating them or somebody else. So rule number 1, we've always learned, treat every firearm as if it were loaded. There's an average of over 600 unintentional firearm deaths per year, with about 15% of those being children between the ages of 3 and 16. This is all because someone assumed a firearm was empty or safe or was not taught otherwise. There is seldom a way of seeing that a firearm is safe. You must physically and visually make sure that it is. If you are unfamiliar with the way a certain firearm functions, ask someone who is. Find the factory manual, use the internet. You can look anything up online these days. But make sure you understand how to safely use it. Teach children never to touch a gun unless there's an adult supervision, and leave it alone and find an adult if one is not already present. So the same rules apply when you are training or teaching with blue guns or training guns. Teaching children and beginners to treat toys, BB guns, Nerf guns, airsoft guns like real loaded firearms will cement this rule into them so they are handling real firearms. Rule number 2, never point a firearm at anything you don't intend to destroy. Can't stress this enough. Do not under any circumstances point a firearm at another person, living thing, or property. The only exceptions are legal hunting and when you are in absolute fear that your life or the life of another is going to be taken, even if you know the firearm is safe and empty. Rule number 3, we've all learned it. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Or, in other words, keep your booger hook off the bank switch. There are situations where you will move around while carrying your firearm, such as walking through the woods while you are hunting, running around a course during some type of competition, or even clearing rooms in your house in the dark when you hear a window break, a door bust open. No matter what you are doing, you must remember to always keep your finger off the trigger. You trip and fall. Not everybody has the grace of a Olympic figure skater. So you trip and fall, bump into things, get scared and excited. That's all a situation that can result in an unintentional discharge. So fingers outside the trigger guards at all times until you're ready to fire. So rule number 4, always be sure of your target and what is behind it. If you can identify that what you're shooting at is what you intend to shoot at, or that your there's no backdrop behind your target. I'm sure we've all done it. I can say that I'm probably guilty of that myself. This rule kind of gets broken down in 2 parts: the actual target and the surrounding area. Targets can be made of many materials and configurations, all which can react differently from a bullet impact. While hunting, it is important to be sure you are shooting the right animal. You don't want to shoot a doe and your tag is for a buck. It's very important to properly identify your target, and if you are unsure of it, you should not point your gun to gamble with your freedom or life. It's also important to remember that isn't much that can stop a bullet. Animals and people, cars, buildings, or anything else outside of appropriate backstops, some armors and bullets are designed with limited penetration or fragmentation, will not stop a bullet. Be sure that those targets that you set up have a backstop that is going to stop the bullets and all of their pieces. Be sure that the deer that you're shooting at doesn't have another hunter on the opposite side trying to take the same shot you're trying to. In any of these scenarios, it's important not to get anxious or excited or even scared and unintentionally shoot something you didn't mean to. From punching a hole through paper or wood and continuing through until it runs out of energy, to fragmenting on rocks or through an animal, and even ricocheting off water, you're responsible for every piece of that bullet and where it impacts. So be really mindful of that. Another aspect of this rule has arisen over time with the popularity of silhouette and steel targets. These targets are extremely fun and rewarding to shoot because they give you positive instant feedback, but they pose a real danger if not set up properly. Most of these targets require that you are a certain distance away from the target, or the target is set up at an angle to deflect the ricocheting projectiles or fragments. It's really important to follow the manufacturer's rules and regulations and advice when shooting these types of targets, either alone or, by yourself. That's the same thing. Alone or with other people. Rule number 5, know how to safely operate your firearm and how all its safeties work. It's common sense. Let's see. Use your safeties. Use your safety mechanisms. Like the rule says, know how to safely operate your firearm and how all the safeties work. Biggest thing you can do, get a hold of the manufacturer's manual. They normally have all of your operating procedures and a list of all the safety mechanisms, etc. within that. Use your resources. You can Google anything these days. YouTube is a very useful source. Obviously, can't go by everything you read on the internet or watch on YouTube, but there are a lot of good content creators out there that post a lot of good information and how-tos for any firearm you could think of. Next one, rule number 6, always use caliber correct factory ammunition. I know there are tons of people out there that reload. Not knocking it, but it's something that really has to be done correctly, or it can lead to serious injury or demolishing a firearm. But we'll just put it that way. Reloading is a skill and should not be taken lightly, as it requires specialized equipment and knowledge of all the different dyes, cases, bullets, powders, primers, and the right recipe. If you're not reloading, make sure that you know the specific caliber of every firearm you shoot and every box of ammunition you obtain. Using factory ammunition or custom hand-loaded ammunition from a licensed manufacturer ensures that it will be safe to fire in your gun. But you have to double check those. Don't trust anything just by the markings on the box. Your ammunition also has stamps on it that tells you the caliber and the manufacturer of the ammunition. if it's not reloaded ammunition. If it's not reloaded by you personally, in my opinion, I wouldn't use it. There's too much risk involved to just be out there using anything you can find in a box in your closet. You got to be sure of the firearm that you're using, because there are firearms out there that fire multiple sizes of cartridges. Revolvers chambered in 454, 45 long Colt, 410 shot shell can safely shoot everything from bullets to birdshot. So you have to know, because it's very easy to slip a 16 gauge shot shell into a 12 gauge shotgun, or load a 9mm magazine into a 40 and fire around. Just pay attention to what you're doing and keep yourself out of a dangerous situation by separating your different calibers of ammunitions and your magazines. If you have a problem, need storage containers, contact me. I have a great resource on getting some of those. Got some myself. I didn't think to pull them out for this, but get a hold of me. I can get you set up with those. Rule number 7, pretty self-explanatory. Use appropriate eye and ear protection. I'm not going to go far into that because, like I said, that one's self-explanatory. Rule number 8, always keep firearms unloaded until ready to use. That one's self-explanatory too. I know when we're hunting, we keep rounds in the chamber. Whatever you do, know what you're doing. Be safe about it. When your gun's at home, in your vehicle, anywhere that it can be accessed by anyone other than you, that gun needs to be unloaded. If you're not using the firearm, it needs to be unloaded. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We all have self-defense firearms for our house. My opinion, still needs to be unloaded. You can 100% wake up out of bed, load your magazine, load a round into the chamber before needing to use that firearm, especially if it's somewhere readily available to you. 100% keep them unloaded. Too many kids out there these days get a hold of loaded firearms, and the outcome's just not good. Rule number 9, learn all that you can about safety and handling and shooting. That's self-explanatory in itself. Knowledge is power. Knowledge allows you to handle, manipulate, shoot, deal with malfunctions, and clean a firearm with no risk of danger to you or others around you. Knowing how to be a safe shooter rewards a degree of confidence and assures others can be confident that you aren't going to do something that can be dangerous for everyone. It's also important to not only learn everything you can, but also to practice what you have learned and to teach it to friends and family so that they know how to be safe as well. Big rule: if you see something, say something. If somebody's doing something wrong, say something. This isn't it's not a contest about who can do it better. It's who can do it safer. So, and I kind of touched on that with number 9, but number 10 is do not make firearm safety a secret. Tell others to be safe as well. Like I said, it's not a competition about who can do it better, who can do it faster, who can do it cooler. It's a competition about who can do it safer and reach the end goal safely, and we all go home at the end of the night. So the next one, this is the next talking point, how to make a firearm safe to handle. So anytime you're working with firearms, safety is the most important consideration. Every aspect of the inspection procedure is designed to ensure your safety and the safety of others. Working with a firearm is not as dangerous as some would assume, but there are inherent dangers that can be nullified with a few basic safety rules. These rules will ensure your safety and the safety of everyone around you at all times. The first step in preparing any firearm for inspection or handling is to clear it. Clearing a firearm involves removing its feed source, ammunition, and making sure the chamber is clear. Clearing a firearm is always done in the same sequence, should be done in the same sequence. Failing to complete the sequence in order can lead to a very dangerous situation. I'm going to go over the steps to how to clear. All of them are pretty self-explanatory. All firearms are going to be done in roughly the same way. But that goes back to knowing how to properly operate and handle your specific firearms. So knowledge is power. Do your research, do your reading, do your investigation on how it works, and do it the same way, the right way every time. So step number one, you're going to set the safety selector to the safe position. Some designs of firearms won't allow you to set the safety as it will interfere with the clearing of the action. An example is the 1911. Number two, with repeating arms and semi-automatic firearms, you're going to remove the feed source. This means any box, drum, or detachable tubular magazine. For revolvers, you're going to unlock the cylinder or open the loading gate. Firearms that utilize a fixed internal or tubular magazine, you're going to unlock and open the action. So step three, unlock and open the action to manually extract and eject any cartridges left in the chamber. If the firearm utilizes a fixed magazine, you may have to manually cycle the action several times before all the cartridges are removed from the action. Once the action is clear, manually cycle the action several more times to verify that the ammunition has been cleared. For revolvers, use the ejector rod to empty the chamber in the cylinder. Step four, lock the action open if possible, and physically and visually check the chamber. Use your finger to feel inside the chamber and look to verify that it's clear. If the firearm utilizes a fixed magazine, verify the magazine is empty and you can see and feel the magazine follower. After those four steps, your firearm is considered clear and safe to handle. Remove any live ammunition from the workspace and the room to prevent any accidental loading. If there's ammunition left in the feeding devices, remove it as well. Don't have it anywhere close to where you're working on the firearm, inspecting, cleaning, showing off, anything. Just get it out of there. Put it away, put it in the lockbox, put it in your ammo box, put it in your back in your safe, whatever you got to do. Take it in the kitchen, put it in the oven, Just don't turn the oven on. That's a bad idea, actually. Let's just put it in the fridge. That'll work. Just kidding. Don't put it in the fridge. Just move it from the room. All right. So, how to identify if a firearm is safe to operate or not. This is a long one, and it's not going to be for everybody. But I'm going to go over it just because it's important. I think everybody should be able to know that their firearm isn't in working condition or that it's not safe to use, and at that point they need to seek out a gunsmith or seek out the manufacturer's recommendation on how to solve the issue that they're experiencing with that. So the function and safety check is the second step in the process. The function check is used to diagnose any issues that the firearm may be experiencing. The function check is performed by hand, no live ammunition, in a controlled environment. The initial function and safety test should be done with dry, no live ammunition, and no dummy rounds. The action is manipulated by hand slowly, paying close attention to the feel of the action parts moving together. The parts should feel smooth when moving against each other, and there shouldn't be any stoppages or binding. With manual actions, it's easier to work the action slowly in both the unlocking and locking strokes. With semi-automatics, it is slightly more challenging because you are fighting against the action recoil spring, and you hand cycle the action. So work the action slowly so that you can feel each step of the cycle of operations. I should have probably added the cycle of operations into this, but I'm planning on doing that in our second episode. I'll get to that further later. There are several steps of the process that you should feel depending on the action types. So in the unlocking phase, when hand cycling the action, the first thing you should feel is the breech unlocking on almost every action type, except blowback. The action unlocking will feel like light or moderate resistance as the locking lugs or surfaces shear across each other. You'll feel the moment that the breech unlocks as the bearing surfaces clear each other and the resistance that was felt lessens. Outside of feel, you can also hear the sounds of the breech unlocking. You can typically hear the bolt move, camming and rotating inside the carrier or receiver, or the barrel camming and unlocking from the slide. You may also hear various clicks or pings as the action performs other tasks like disconnecting the fire control group or moving the elevator or carrier. Once the breech is unlocked, the feel of the stroke should be smooth until you reach the end of the stroke. A blowback firearm should feel the same all the way through its stroke until it reaches the cocking step. Break action firearms should pivot open smoothly once the top lever is manipulated. The unlocking step should feel much different for revolvers. Will feel much different for revolvers because all of a revolver's action movement comes from the fire control group. You will have to dry fire it to verify function. With single action revolvers, you will need to cock the hammer manually and feel for the cylinder stop to release the cylinder and the finger to turn the ratchet. Cock the hammer slowly until the sear catches the hammer and the hammer is trapped. With double action revolvers, you'll have to press the trigger slowly that you can feel the movement of the action. You may have to use 2 fingers to move the trigger slowly and really feel how the action moves. I'm not trying to read from script for this, but it's a lot of notes that I have, and every piece of it kind of goes together. So cocking, once the action is unlocked and has reached the end of its stroke, you'll feel the fire control group cocking. You'll begin to feel resistance, and you may hear several clicking sounds as the hammer or striker and the sear are engaged. The feel of the cocking step will vary depending on whether the firearm uses a hammer or a striker. I'm going to skip those 2 detailed parts. Move down to locking. As you continue to drive the action forward, the last thing you feel is the breech locking. Like unlocking, you will begin to feel a light to moderate resistance as the locking lugs or surfaces engage. With manual actions, you will have to force the breech closed with light to moderate force until the action bottoms out against the lugs and locks. With semi-automatic actions, the action recoil spring assists with the locking of the breech. With the action particularly partially locked. Gee, can't even read today. Release the charging handle slide to and allow the action recoil spring to lock the breech completely. If the breech does not lock fully, there may be an issue. So now that you've completed the drive function and safety check, you're going to perform the same check using dummy rounds, snap caps. This may not even, you may not even make it to this step. You may not have the resources to get to this step. If you don't, that's okay. Seek out a gunsmith or somebody that knows what they're doing and has the dummy round snap caps to help you. So the second check relies more on vision and feel. You can watch the dummy rounds as they complete various stages of the cycle of operations. These are a couple steps that you're going to visually and physically evaluate while you're doing the second check. You're going to pay attention to the feeding cycle. You're going to watch how that dummy round moves from the feed source through to locking into the chamber. I'm not going to get real detailed into that because we're already 46 minutes in, but if you have questions, reach out to me and I'll definitely answer that. The next step you're going to watch of the cycle of operations is extracting. So you're going to watch your extraction mechanism, and you're just looking for how that round is extracted, any damage to the cartridge, making sure that your extractor grabs a hold of the rim of the case. The snap cap should move smoothly from the chamber and should not exert much resistance against the extraction claw. With your brake actions, like I said, all firearms work a little bit differently, all have the same concept, but they do it in a different way. With your brake actions, you're just going to you're going to look for the round to be pushed out of the chamber there as you pivot the brake action open. So, excuse me. Next step, you're going to watch the ejecting step. So you're going to look for any weird pattern of ejection, not pulling the, not kicking the cartridge out of the case, the casing out of the receiver. Again, you need to know what type of ejector that you have. Do you have a fixed ejector or a sprung ejector? That's also going to be crucial information to you to identify a failure to eject. So now that you've completed the function and safety check using the dummy rounds or snap caps, assuming that you didn't find any issues with that, you can run the same check at speed, and this means you can accelerate the speed at which you manipulate manual actions, and you can allow semi-automatic actions to move under recoil spring force. This check may reveal issues that the previous checks did not. Because this check is done at an accelerated pace, it may be more difficult to see and feel what's happening as the dummy round is being cycled, especially in semi-automatics. So in that case, moving really slow through your check before this, you would identify things that you may not catch in this one. This point, you're checking for, the only thing you're checking for is malfunctions. The firearm should perform all of the functions of the cycle of operations without failure. With snap caps, you are looking for failures to feed, failures to extract, and failures to eject. With each type of malfunction, you're gonna have to learn how to identify that. Things to look for during this: failures to feed, failures to extract, and failures to eject, like I said. So if you experience any of those, your firearm is not operational at that point. You need to seek out manufacturer help or a certified gunsmith to help you identify what exactly is the cause of your issue. If your firearm passes this step, once the firearm is passed the initial functions check, both dry and with snap caps and dummy rounds, whatever you choose, you can now verify both the function and safety of the firing control group. Your firing control group is super important. That is what creates the bang. So step one, with snap caps in the chamber or in the feeding device, and the fire control group in the cock position, set the safety selector in the safe position. Step two, depress the trigger. Depending on the trigger action type, the trigger may move slightly or may not move at all. Step three, release the trigger and move the safety selector to the fire position, and nothing should happen. Step four, depress the trigger once again. The hammer or striker should release, providing an audible click, just like when you'd be dry firing the rifle or firearm. Number five, with repeating firearms, continue depressing the trigger as you manually cycle the weapon, ejecting one snap cap and feeding another. You may hear audible cues as the firing control group disconnects, and you may feel it in the trigger. Step six, release the trigger, and you may hear or feel the fire control group resetting in preparation for firing once again. When the trigger is released, the hammer or striker should not move. Step 7, using a rubber or nylon hammer or rawhide mallet, tap the receiver or action or the firing control group housing. Use light to moderate force, and this simulates the firearm being dropped or bounced around. The hammer or striker should not move at this point. Step 8, set the safety selector to safe once again. Tap the firearm with the hammer or mallet once more. And again, nothing should happen during this phase either. So that is kind of the rundown of that. Firearms equipped with additional grip safeties and trigger safeties, as well as out of battery safeties, require additional safety checks. For these firearms, the check includes the following. With the fire control group set into the cock position and the manual safety selector set to fire, depress the trigger without depressing the grip or trigger safety. The trigger may move slightly, but the hammer or striker should not fall. Step 2, pull the action slightly out of battery and depress the trigger. The trigger may move, but will feel free or dead because it's disconnected from the remainder of the fire control group, and the hammer or striker should not move even with all the safeties deactivated. One final area of the fire control group to examine, which is specific to hammer-fired firearms, is the hammer and sear engagement. This can be done with a snap cap and the hammer set to the cock position. Press against the back of the hammer or lightly tap with a rubber or rawhide mallet. The hammer should not move. This test can also reveal issues with the hammer or sear angle. Good God, I can't talk. So, if at any point the firearm does not pass a certain check, delay the remaining checks until the problem is addressed. So, don't shoot, don't operate, don't do anything until you get that problem addressed by the manufacturer or a certified gunsmith. All right, so our last topic is going to be first aid kits, first aid kit essentials. My background, I've seen, done, assessed, and these are just the things that I think should be in your kits or in your hunting camps or in your vehicle in a go box, go bag, whatever. Not everything's going to be, it's not going to be feasible to carry all of these items that I sped off on your person. But like I said, having them in a storage container in your hunting blind, your hunting camp, in your vehicle or on your ATV, I highly recommend. But I wanted to touch base on it because I want to put the thought in the back of your head to be prepared. And so that you have all the tools and things accordingly for your outing in the case of an emergency. So first one right out of the gate, tourniquets. You want good tourniquets. There are plenty of awesome tourniquets on the market. Do your research. I'm not going to suggest any just because that leads to a whole lot of other things, but tourniquets. My recommendation is at least a minimum of 2 tourniquets per person. So if you are putting together a go bag for you and your buddy to go out, that means a minimum of 4. But it should be on your buddy to have his own kit and be prepared for himself. So help your buddies get prepared. Help anybody that's going to be around be prepared. You name it. So tourniquets, 2 per person, and you want good tourniquets. Occlusive bandages, self-explanatory. Quick clot, you're going to want the fabric quick clot, not the granulated quick clot. They don't recommend the granulated anymore. From prior research, the granulated sometimes can cause worse damage once you get to a medical facility, and they'd have to clean that out. Band-aids, all sizes. Medical tape and cling wrap. So medical tape being your regular medical tape, fabric medical tape, various sizes. Cling wrap, like the vet wrap from Tractor Supply, works great. It only sticks to itself, but you can use it for your splints, anything. Gauze pads, self-explanatory, various sizes. Ace bandages, sting stop, saline in a small bottle, or syringes, whatever. Iodine swabs, breakable ice packs, SAM splints. That's literally what it is. Capital SAM splints. They are padded foam malleable splints that you can splint an arm, wrist, whatever. Learn how to use them. They're a great thing to throw in your bag. Simple, easy to use. Like I said, it goes back to using your ace bandages or your cling wrap. You can wrap them with that to secure them. Other splinting supplies for, if you're in a tree stand, whatever, hunting around cliffs, splinting supplies for long bones, short bones, and joints. If you have other recommendations out there, put them in the chat, put them in the comments, anything. I'll go back through and I'll post this list of items with the playback. But if you need help with anything like this, contact me. We can get you set up. We can give you recommendations. I'd much rather help you get prepared than see something happen and you not be prepared. Seen it many times. Come from a search and rescue background, canine background, law enforcement, EMS, fire. Be prepared. Anything can happen, and if you're not, I'd rather be more prepared than I actually and not use it than not have it if I do. EpiPens. If you need EpiPens for any type of allergies, they need to be with you. Benadryl, self-explanatory. Chewable baby aspirins, Tylenol, ibuprofen. Know your dosages. Take enough for 1 to 2 doses if you're out in the field. If you require a glucometer, make sure you have all the supplies and extra batteries. If you can, if you need it, if you think you need it, if you have room for it, battery operated pulse oximeter with extra batteries. Again, if you have room for it, stethoscope. If you have any type of blood pressure issues, or if you have room for it, a blood pressure cuff, flashlight with extra batteries, and then an extra flashlight with extra batteries, trauma shears, self-explanatory. You can Google them, get you a good set of trauma shears. They help with removing clothing, boots, anything. Small sewing kit, many uses. Duct tape, many uses. Emergency blankets. If you get stuck out, nobody can get you, you don't have cell service, you're going to be out there every night, have you an emergency blanket in your kit. If you're hunting with somebody, have some in your vehicle to where somebody can go back and get them. However you need to do it. Medical gloves, a couple pairs in a zippy bag, work. That'll go a long way. A sling or 1-inch webbing to make one out of. It's a good thing to have. Injure your arm, something like that. You got a way to get you a sling made up. Emergency flares. It's kind of one of those things. If you have room for it, put it in your go bag. If not, put it in a storage box in the vehicle or the hunting camp. If you're with somebody, if you're not with somebody, find a way to get it in your bag. A small mirror, you can use that for signaling, signaling help. A whistle, a waterproof fire starter, a knife and plier combo. I have one. I take mine everywhere with me. A good Gerber. It's got pliers and everything you need in there. Inexpensive, but good thing to keep in your bag. Antibiotic ointment in tube or individual packets, however you prefer. If you know how to use it, a CPR rescue breath mask. Small, you can keep it in your car or whatever. If you know how to use it, those are good. An extra set of dry clothes, including gloves, new socks, a toboggan, whatever the weather is. Put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in your car, put it in your go bag, whatever, because if you get wet, hypothermia, you're going to want it. Alcohol swabs in the individual packets. You can get them at Walmart. You can get boxes of however many you need. Baby wipes come in handy. A Sharpie. You're going to want a Sharpie if you have to write on your tourniquets as to when you applied them, or just labeling packages, labeling bandages as to when they were put on. Any certain details you can write on your arm, you can write on paper, write on your baggies of your vital signs. However, if you get bit by something, you can mark the area that you get bit. Snakes, spiders, bees. When you get bit, you want to mark that area to show if it is getting worse. A list of your medical history, personal information, emergency contacts, medications, actively being taken, a list of your allergies to medications, in a Ziploc bag for medical personnel if you're found unresponsive. That needs to be on your person, and you can even print out a list and put it in your vehicle, in your go box, go bag, somewhere where somebody knows where it is that they can tell somebody to get to. A daily plan and location of your whereabouts left in your vehicle, where emergency personnel would look for you first to help guide them to you if you're lost or injured and unable to return to your vehicle or self-extricate from where you're hunting. Put out another one, personal clothing item that has been worn recently. by you in a Ziploc bag left in your vehicle and labeled for use for a search and rescue canine to track you. Very important. Seen it many cases. Not everybody does that, and it's super hard to track down your family if we don't know who you are and where you live in order to get something of yours to initiate a canine response. Bottles of water, self-explanatory. Protein bars or some type of food nutrition, MREs, liquid IV or Pedialyte. Like I said, may not be able to put it in your hunting bag, but have it in your car. Have it where somebody can find it. Have it there. Somewhere, if you can get back to it, you have it. Sat phone or GPS with emergency calling capabilities. If you're out of cell range, I know it's not feasible for everybody, but if it is, it's a good thing to have. New boot laces, self-explanatory. If your feet aren't any good, you're not going to be able to get yourself out of a situation. But boot laces can also come in handy for all different types of things. Paracord, super simple, space saving. You can put in a roll of paracord and do a lot of things with a lot of paracord. Now, y'all are gonna laugh at me, but this is one that could be super crucial to have. It's going to be funny to find in your bag later on, and it's going to be funny for your buddies to find. But cover your kids' ears. But condoms can hold up to 3 liters of water, and they can also be tied around a limb that has a fracture. Don't knock it till you try it, but it could be useful. A first aid manual, fire starter blocks that you can light and that'll burn. That way you can dry out your wood that you find if you can find it. Giant outdoor trash bag, like the black big 55-gallon trash bags. You can use those to cut holes in and create a dry space for yourself if you're caught out in the rain, anything to avoid hypothermia and getting wet. Tweezers, various sizes of hemostats, toilet paper, saran wrap. Saran wrap's good for packaging wounds. A survival book with tips and a list of edible items that can be found in your area. If you get stuck out, don't have those MREs or any type of food, you can normally find something to eat in the woods. Again, compass or GPS, burn cream, sterile dressings, a tent or a tarp to make an emergency shelter out of if necessary and if able, a hammock, sleeping bag, wire ties or zip ties, a notebook and pencil, carabiners. You want the carabiners with the locks. The cheap ones aren't meant to hold weight. You want good durable carabiners that can hold weight or be of use in some way that you can trust. If you have room for it, high visibility reflective vest that can be seen in rugged terrain or in the dark. Rain gear, flagging tape or flags to mark your trail. Matches, but only if you have a waterproof container to put them in. Cotton swabs, they don't have to be sterile, but they could come in useful. Glow sticks, light sticks, whatever you want to call them, the breakable sticks that you can pop open. They give you a little bit of light, but also allow for people to find you in the dark. Extra Ziploc baggies for your extra batteries, anything that doesn't need to get wet, sat phone, anything like that. Your sterile dressings, put them in a Ziploc bag. You don't want that stuff getting wet, and it'd be wet if you need it. Anything that you're going to be taking into the field with you, definitely put in a zippy bag or a waterproof box where it doesn't get wet. That stuff, your bandages aren't going to stick, anything like that. You don't want it wet. I don't think there's anybody in here, but if there's any questions, now's the time to ask them. If I missed something that you want to know, if you want me to go back, let me know. Like I said, this is going to be uploaded to YouTube to be able to play back, and I'll have this list that my talking points from today that I can email you at any time. So if you're watching or if you rewatch and you're interested in the list of medical supplies and first aid supplies that I went over, or any of the safety steps and function checks, I'll be more than happy to email those to you and go over them with anything that you missed or want to know further about. So now we've went over everything. Super overwhelming tidbits of information. But these things are important during handling and operating firearms, as well as being out hunting in the areas you guys may be in. So if there's any questions that haven't been asked, feel free to ask them now, or shoot me a message on Facebook after the live ends, and I'll be happy to address anything, send you this list, or go through anything that I may not have covered. But I appreciate everybody that watches. Again, this was episode 1. I was going to have a giveaway if we had enough people, but not enough people in here right now. So we'll try again on episode number 2. Next episode is going to be October 20th at 5 p.m. right here on YouTube Live. And the topic is still up in the air, so pitch your ideas. But I'm thinking about a episode on general firearm cleaning and maintenance. So we'll go off that, and thanks for watching. Stop!